Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Would like to thank you all for joining us here for the news on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Binkley. The mother of a student at Ladies Island Middle School has filed a lawsuit against the Beaufort County School District after the student allegedly had her fingertip severed on school property. Here's what we know. The lawsuit alleges on January 25th, 2024, Shamika Freeman's daughter was returning to her classroom after using the bathroom when another student closed the heavy door shut, crushing the girl's left hand. That accident severed the student's ring finger, which resulted in fractures and partial amputation of the fingertip. That lawsuit goes on to say the district employee threw the student's severed fingertip in the trash. Because it was not preserved, the fingertip couldn't be reattached during surgery. According to the lawsuit, the Beaufort County School District was, quote, negligent, careless, willful, wanton, reckless, and or grossly negligent in regard to the situation by failing to maintain a safe environment and properly monitor students. Freeman is asking for a jury trial and is seeking to recover up to $300,000 in compensation and punitive damages. Well, McIntosh County voters made their voices heard on Sapelo Island. They voted overwhelmingly to repeal changes to the county zoning ordinance that would have allowed the size of homes there to double. With all precincts reporting, 1,584 people voted to repeal the ordinance, with 285 voting no. The McIntosh County Board of Elections says turnout was about 19%. The culmination of years of work by activists after the County Board of Commissioners changed the zoning rules back in 2023. The Gullah Geechee community in Hog Hammock said the zoning changes could have raised property taxes and costs and forced longtime residents out. Residents gathered enough signatures to trigger yesterday's countywide referendum and succeeded in a legal challenge by the county that reached the Georgia Supreme Court. Well, January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month across the United States. It's a problem in all states, including right here in Georgia. Georgia saw more than 300 acts of human trafficking in 2024. That was a slight decrease from the year before, but incidents have been on the rise since 2021. That's why Georgia has a specialized team dedicated to prosecuting human traffickers and helping survivors. It's based in Atlanta, but agents work around the state. This morning, leaders gathered at the Atlanta airport to highlight ongoing efforts to prevent trafficking and support survivors. Mayor Andre Dickens joined airport leaders and law enforcement to share updates on current initiatives, especially ahead of the city hosting the World Cup.
We want to make sure that every fan and every traveler to our city knows how to report their concerns, whether to law enforcement or to local and nonprofit hotlines and national hotlines as well. Because when the world turns its attention to Atlanta, the world will be met with the strongest possible commitment to safety and human dignity.
There's a 24-hour anonymous tip line to report any suspicions of human trafficking. We should also note that help is available in 170 languages and is run by a nonprofit. That number is on your screen right now, 1-866-END-HTGA. That's the helpline. Staying in state news, bracing for snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Georgia's preparing for a potentially historic ice storm moving in this weekend. We should note most of it is likely going to be in middle Georgia, but officials do warn impacts could be widespread and have major impacts for millions across the South.
As always, our state team will be pre-treating and preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
The WTOC weather team will be tracking the storm system as it spreads across Georgia. To get up-to-date information as soon as it becomes available, you can head on over to the WTOC weather app. In national news, the American Red Cross has declared a severe blood shortage. The organization says the blood supply is 35% below where it should be. Now, blood is given to patients during emergencies, surgeries, and childbirth. It's also given to people with blood disorders like sickle cell disease and to those being treated for cancer.
Hospitals, the demand is high, and all of the blood centers around the country were not able to keep up with the demand. So we really need folks who are able to consider, donating blood, helping to save a life.
Platelet donations as well as all blood types are needed. The Red Cross says they are especially in need of type O, which is the universal blood type. Well, we're taking a live look right now outside of the World Economic Forum where leaders have been trickling out. This is a live camera feed. And President Trump reiterated his determination to take control of Greenland during his highly anticipated address at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. The president started his speech by touting his administration's agenda on the economy, but he then pivoted to a topic that's really triggered an international standoff. You can see the president right now leaving that meeting. Natalie Brand has more from that speech. Take a look.
Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland?
President Trump took the stage in Davos with his push to acquire Greenland looming over the international conference.
It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it.
During his address, he didn't hold back, saying the island is critical for U.S. national security, adding he wants immediate negotiations.
This would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance.
The president said for the first time he would not use force.
I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
But he also issued this warning.
You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
President Trump is expected to have a number of meetings with European leaders who have been standing with Denmark in opposition to his Greenland plans. During his speech, the president took swipes at Europe and NATO.
We'll be there for them 100%, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. If we gave them the call, gentlemen, we are being attacked.
NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte has tried to de-escalate tensions.
I think President Trump is right. Other leaders in NATO are right. We need to defend the Arctic. We know that the sea lanes are opening up. We know that China and Russia are increasingly active in the Arctic.
Danish officials are not attending the World Economic Forum, but the prime minister said while the country is ready to discuss security, negotiating sovereignty is off the table. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, with the end of healthcare tax credits now bringing up the costs of plans under the Affordable Care Act, we're seeing the longer-term effects of that decision in Congress. Gunter Schroeder with our sister station in Augusta, Georgia, tells us some people in the South are now being forced to make risky decisions with their healthcare.
I empathize with them because it's hard. This isn't the only bill that they're facing that's increasing.
The new reality of healthcare costs has hit home for brokers and families.
It's harder to sit down with a client and explain the cost. It's hard for me as a consumer to sit down and look at my plan last year and the year before and say I'm getting the same plan, but I'm paying a lot more.
And for those on low income in the CSRA, the safety net of subsidized health care has disappeared.
We have a higher concentrated percentage of people who are affected immediately. And so that does definitely present a challenge for us. When you're getting health insurance when you're low income because of the subsidy, and then the subsidy changes to where you can't, that's when people fall into a hole.
And options are also limited for the many small businesses locally.
The problem with group and why some of these smaller businesses can't get into the group is because it costs too much for the employer. If you're empowering business owners to grow a stronger workforce through offering benefits, all pre-tax, it's going to give them more advantages in the workplace.
With no long-term solution in sight, brokers are unified in their hope for something short-term.
I do hope to reach out to a lot of small businesses and make them aware of the individual coverage health reimbursement arrangements. If people have more money at the end of the month because the premiums are more affordable, then they have more to support local business.
To take the pressure off the people.
Turning now to sports news this morning, the younger brother of the Heisman winner is transferring to Georgia Tech. Reports say Alberto Mendoza is heading to the Flats. He played behind his brother at Indiana during the team's legendary national championship season. The younger Mendoza brother threw for 286 yards and 5 touchdowns this season. He'll have 3 years of eligibility left. Pretty big pickup for Georgia Tech. In consumer news, a car is one of the biggest purchases a person can make, and the cost of owning one is pretty substantial. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger looks at what you need to know if you're trying to get a new set of wheels. I do apologize. That was the wrong video. Let me cue up that story momentarily. Here we go. Sorry about that. Here's Jill Schlesinger.
If you're in the market for a car or truck for the first time in a while, brace yourself for higher costs. The average price recently soared past $50,000. That's due to a combination of inflation and people purchasing larger and more expensive vehicles. Anyone taking the plunge should start by determining how much you can afford. According to AAA, the total cost of owning and operating a new vehicle is about $1,000 per month. So managing this expense is going to require some homework. Always do your research before walking into a dealership. Even if you have been loyal to a particular brand or seller, consider expanding your search to other options and a broader geographic area. Most of this information can be found online. If you drive cars into the ground, you're usually best served by buying. Even if you borrow money to buy, once that loan is paid off, your annual cost of the car drops significantly. But if you're frequently drawn to shiny new vehicles with improved safety options and the latest technology, consider leasing. A lease usually requires a smaller down payment and results in lower monthly payments. And don't forget, the willingness to walk away is your best negotiating tool. In New York, I'm CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
All right, I just want to throw it out there, too, because this is something I went through only a couple of months ago. The car registration fees in Georgia, what's it called, the VAT tax? Not VAT, something else. But the fee to register a car in Georgia, higher than any other state I'd lived in. It was like $40 in Idaho. Here, I think I paid $1,200. So just be ready for that, too, if you're registering your car for the first time. Slightly higher anticipated added cost, at least in my experience, and talking to a handful of workers here as well. Well, the 25th annual Savannah Home and Garden Show returns January 23rd through the 25th at the Savannah Convention Center, and admissions free. You can expect design inspiration, home improvement ideas, and live demos from Georgia native Michael Seward, plus cooking shows with Jesse Blanco. It's a pretty fun way to kick off your weekend. And finally, you know that feeling you have when there's an itch that you just can't reach? Well, a clever cow in Austria found a solution, just swept it away. Meet Veronica, a 13-year-old Swiss Brown caught on video picking up a broom to reach for those tricky spots, switching scratching techniques depending on the itch. Researchers say her behavior is rare, surprising, and smarter than anyone expected.
There are around 1.5 billion of cows and bulls in the world, and we are only now starting to recognize that they are able to use tools.
Veronica's owner says her cow has been inventing and refining her tool technique for 9 years. It all started with picking up fallen tree branches to get the job done. All right, and with that, we're going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. We're going to have a little bit of fun this afternoon. Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. We'll be back in just about 15 minutes for the First Alert Weather Show with Dave Turley, so stay tuned for that. He'll be talking about some of the impacts we are expecting this weekend. Again, that winter storm sweeping into parts of the region. Not necessarily snow here on the coast, but still certainly some impacts and temps in the 20s this weekend, so brace yourself for that. Dave will break it all down coming up in 15 minutes here on Plus. In the meantime, you can always check our website for the latest updates, WTOC.com. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and here's Local News Live.